All right, I'm so excited today to be with Ilian Bergman, and I'm so excited to have you as part of our virtual gallery collection. Welcome today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, now you've been on our live events before, so it's kind of fun to have you back into the groove. Now, before we get started, let's talk about the quilt behind you before I ask you any other questions, because I'm fascinated by it. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so this quilt, I called it Loud, and it's fully improv, and every single fabric in here is considered a low volume fabric.
Right.
And so the really fun thing about it is that if any of these fabrics were with really bright colors or any other fabrics essentially, they would just fade in the background. But because the whole quilt is low volume, you really kind of, every time you look at it, you see something different, and they're all prints. So you'll see birds and faces, and you pointed out the text fabric.
Yes.
There's just lots of really fun things in it.
I just think it's fabulous. And that's one of the things about quilting, right, is that you learn that process of kind of what you like, but then you kind of try different things. So on that same kind of vein, tell us about how you got started in quilting. What prompted you to become a quilter?
Yeah, so I made my first quilt when I was 12. I was in 4-H as a child.
Okay.
And when I was 12 years old, there was like a spring break day camp to learn how to make a quilt. And I went with some friends, and we made a quilt. I know.
I just think it's fabulous. That's great.
Yeah. And then so through 4-H, I made a couple more quilts. And then I kind of pivoted to more garment sewing as I was a teenager in college. And then in 2016, I was just browsing Pinterest, and I saw all of these fun, bright, modern quilts. And I went, oh my gosh, this really makes me want to make another quilt.
Right.
So I bought some fabric, and I started sewing, and I really spent, you talked about kind of finding your style. I really spent 2016 and 2017 trying everything.
Right.
English paper piecing, foundation paper piecing, wide seams, like everything I could get my hands on. I'm like, let me see if I like it. Let me see if this is a part of quilting that I enjoy.
And so from that then, so when your first quilt, was it a traditional quilt? Was it, just squares and strips and those kind of things, and probably those homespun colors?
It was a rail fence quilt.
There we go.
I still have it. It has like teddy bears around the edge of it. Like it's very much, I remember going to the fabric store with my mom to try to find some fabrics, and the selection for like fun and bright just really wasn't great. So we kind of picked what was there, and I kind of thought, this is quilting. But then again, as an adult, I realized, no, there's so much more that I just missed out on.
I love that you spent that time kind of finding yourself, finding the techniques that you like. And so now, like, how do you choose fabric and colors? Do you think of a project first and think, okay, this is what I need to make it? Or do you see inspiration and think, oh, I could change it up like this? Kind of, what's your process for currently and how you quilt?
Yeah, so I also design and sell patterns. So a lot of times I will design a pattern. I do it on grid paper, pen and paper, right from the beginning, and then I color it in. So when I pick colors for a quilt, I really just let myself pick what I like. And for my pattern covers, I always want them to be solids. I think it's a little bit easier for people to see solids and kind of, oh, I could change this color. This is kind of more, it's easier to visualize your own style in that.
Correct.
But if I was just quilting for myself, it's prints every time, tons of prints.
And it's funny that you say that, because you're right. I think when we look at a pattern and I see it in a solid, it's much more easy to translate into kind of what I want. But I'm with you. I always have to have prints. I very seldom make quilts that just have solid colors. Even if it's just like solids with tiny little pin drops of white, to me, there still has to be some movement and texture. So what are you working on now? I'm excited because you've done some amazing things in the past.
Oh, thank you. I'm working on a strawberry quilt pattern that'll come out hopefully in the next couple of weeks, but it's 90s Nintendo sort of inspired strawberry quilt. So it has very much like the old style.
Yeah. So is it pixelated kind of thing?
It is.
And you totally made
Yeah.
it on graph paper, didn't you?
I did. So
Yeah.
I started on graph paper and then, turn it into Illustrator and then eventually into a pattern.
Right. Now, you sent some beautiful quilts to us to have on our gallery. Tell us about the quilts that you sent. Why did you choose those specific quilts?
So those are all patterns that I've designed and they really, I think, show my own style. So I talked about, I really spent time trying everything, seeing what I liked and what I didn't like. Do I enjoy sewing curves or do I not? And then I designed patterns that I enjoy making and that I would enjoy having in my home. So hopefully other people have that joy too. And they're really reflective of my style. So I kind of feel like I'm on the border of traditional and modern. They have bright colors, there's some maybe modern aspects to them, but a lot of the building blocks are still very traditional. And that's the style that I like.
There you go. And I love the little pattern that you made the jacket for yourself and then your dog, and I can't remember your dog's name. Tell us your dog's name.
Riley.
Riley.
Riley's my poodle. Yeah.
I love it. Now, did you decide just one day, I thought we'd make something matching, or did you already think about, oh, this would be really fun to do as a class? What kind of was your inspiration for that?
Yeah, so I mentioned I sewed garments,
Right.
from childhood, and I knew that at some point I had accumulated so many quilts that I said, I'm going to make a quilt coat. And I was originally just going to purchase a pattern, and I couldn't find one that had all the elements that I wanted, right? Like I wanted a hood, and I wanted buttons.
I wanted a hood.
There was like different things, and I couldn't find it.
Sure.
So I thought, I'll design my own. And in the process of designing it, which took some time, my dog wears coats in the winter. I live in Wisconsin, and it's cold.
It's cold.
And so while I was kind of working on that, and I had like the itch to kind of try out some techniques and see how they went, and how do you deal with the bulkiness of a quilt fabric that you're sewing to another quilt fabric, I designed and made him a little coat. And so with the idea in mind that we would match.
I love it. I thought it was great. So what is one thing you want the world to know about you that we haven't talked about today?
I really love using up my scraps. So I really enjoy using scraps and having that sort of constraint. So a lot of the things that I do, I give myself constraints. There was a whole year I designed patterns, and I didn't let myself design a star pattern, because if you let me, every single pattern would have a sawtooth star. Like I just love them.
Amen. Amen. I think that often. I think this just needs a little star here in the corner.
It does. Every pattern could have a star. So I kind of told myself this year, no stars. And I enjoyed it because it really pushed me to kind of think creatively outside of that zone.
Right.
And with scraps, I was making all these quilts, accumulating all these scraps, and I thought, I keep saving them for later, and I keep looking at other people's techniques of like cutting them into different sizes. And I thought, what I really need is a strategy that when I finish a quilt, I use up those scraps right away.
Right.
Then nothing goes into the scrap bin because it doesn't get fished out.
No,
like
it just gets overwhelming. So is there a specific shape that you cut those scraps in, or do you just say, this is big enough for a square and this is small enough for a half square triangle? I mean, is there a method to that, cutting up your scrap madness?
I actually don't cut them up. So what I do is, there's a couple quilts that I sent you. The first one is Nordic Star and Companion Wondery.
Beautiful. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So you make Nordic Star, and then you're left, you've got all these like stitch and flip little triangles left over. So I looked at all of them and I thought, wouldn't it be great if you, at the same time, turn this into a second quilt? So at the end, no scraps, and you ended up with 2 quilts.
That's brilliant.
So,
that's brilliant. Yeah. All right, let's talk about 2 more of the quilts that are here in the gallery. The first is Harvest Star. So you talked about how every quilt should have a star. I think this is brilliant. But these are stars that are actually turned on point. Do you want to talk about that quilt?
Yeah, so Harvest Star, it's kind of like a star within a star, kind of like an expanding, and then you've got more stars on the corners. So I initially designed the block, and the corners were plain. And I put it in Illustrator, and I was like, it needs something else. So I played with different shapes, and it ended up being what it needed was more stars. So that's how it ended up.
So did you count like how many stars are in that quilt?
I have not, but that would be a fun challenge. It's like when you see the triangle with triangles in it, and it's like how many triangles?
Yes, we should totally have that as a challenge of how many stars are in Harvest Star. And then the last one, which I think is such a sweet quilt because it's just strips, is Woven Heart. So
Yes.
talk about that and your inspiration for that.
Yeah, so I really like, you know, taking those traditional designs like a heart and then trying to see how I can make it my own. And I really liked the idea of woven hearts because it has that basket weave effect, but at the end it's a heart. And it looks really great in prints, which is the one I sent you, and there's also solids. I wanted to showcase that you really could use prints to have that light and dark effect where it would look like interwoven fabric.
Right. And the thing that I find wonderful about your woven heart is that all the hearts aren't pink or red. I think sometimes as quilters we think, oh, I'm going to make a heart quilt, it has to be pink or red or, you know, for Valentine's Day. But I think hearts are beautiful in spring colors, and I've seen them in just black and whites, and I just love the contrast that it creates depending on the fabric that you use. So I like, of all of them though, the Nordic Star one is my favorite, just saying. And now that I know the story of how I should make it and then I can make another one is even more intriguing.
Thanks.
All right, so we have some rapid fire round questions. You ready? All right, what project are you working on right now?
Berry Blast, which is the strawberry quilt I talked about.
Okay, and what's the favorite project you've worked on?
Oh, I know this is supposed to be rapid fire.
Don't think about it, just tell me.
Probably graffiti hearts.
Oh, yes, yes, okay, because it's scrappy, right?
Yeah, so it's mock prop. I know it's supposed to be rapid fire, but it's mock improv. So it actually is kind of step by step, but at the end it looks improv, which is fun.
It looks fun. Okay, what's your favorite time to work?
Usually after work, so like 5, 6 p.m.
Okay, and your favorite quilting snack?
Gummy bears.
Seriously, I love that. No one has ever said that. I think that's fabulous. What's your favorite thing to listen to while you're quilting?
Audiobooks.
And your favorite way to unwind?
Sewing, quilting.
Yeah. And your favorite hobby outside of quilting?
I love to bake and I love to cook. And I recently started a garden and now I'm obsessed. So
what do you grow in your garden? That's not one of the questions, but I want to know.
I have 6 tomato plants and I have herbs and green beans. And since I kept them all alive, now we're expanding. So I'm really excited about growing more.
That's so wonderful.
It's the trial run and it went well.
That's right. If you can manage a season without them all dying, it gives you hope for the next year, right?
It does.
It's great. All right. And if you had one thing you would tell quilters, what would it be?
Find your voice and don't be afraid of what people tell you should do or how you should do it. I think some of the best things that have come out of quilting have been people who have taken chances. So just go for it.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And again, what an amazing artist you are, and we love all of your quilts. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Pam.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye.